So I had a crazy year deer hunting. This is my 2018/2019 deer hunting recap. I already know what you're gonna say. Josh, you're so far behind in making all these videos this year. And you're right. Mainly because I'm lazy. Most of the videos that I wanted to do, I wanted to shoot here inside my office. Like I said, it's gonna be a recording studio / video studio. We're putting in a new furnace, and I kind of bartered for the furnace. So the guy that's putting it in with me, he's busy. So therefore, I don't have any heat in this building. I basically have the water shut off, and then I have some electric heaters running to keep this place semi-warm. So that's mainly why I haven't been making any videos. I really want to get these videos started, start doing the Music Mondays and the woodworking and stuff, but it is cold, and I will be getting the videos done here very shortly. I don't really like shooting at home just because my wife doesn't like me shooting at home, so therefore I haven't been making videos. I already know I'm not a good hunter. I'm barely a hunter, to be honest. I've been hunting officially since I was 12. You know, when I was a kid, I used to go out with my dad and so on. So I've been hunting a very long time. This entire year has been a learning experience just from a self-filming and hunting as often as I did. Like most people that watch these videos, they get to hunt when they have the opportunity to hunt, whether it's the weekends or days they get off early or whatnot. They don't get to hunt as often as I did this year. So I was really lucky to have the opportunity that I had this year to be able to hunt as much as I did. So by far, I'm not a professional hunter or anything like that. So I don't want anybody that's watching these videos to think that I think that I'm like this hunting expert or anything like that. But I have worked with professional hunters. I've done video work with professional hunters before. So I've learned things over the years and learned camera techniques, whether it's, you know, like camera techniques for hunting or whether it's just hunting techniques and doing different things. There are some things that, you know, I plan on making videos about and showing people what I've learned from them and just passing it on to you guys. Because I'm gonna be making these videos year round. I'm gonna be doing outdoor videos. I'm gonna be doing non-outdoor videos too. So subscribe right now, because if you guys wanna learn any of the tips that I've learned from the pros, you know, I'm gonna pass on that information to you over the year. So I'm really not as picky of a hunter as I seem to be from my series of deer hunting this year. I had a couple opportunities to shoot some decent bucks, and I probably would have taken those opportunities. All the years I've been hunting here, I've always had really nice bucks on this property because of the neighboring property and not being allowed to hunt it. You know, those big, older, mature bucks, they're smart. They don't cross that fence row for anybody. You know, the property that I'm talking about is surrounded by hunters, and these bucks live a long time. I usually really don't get my hopes up when I hunt out here because I've been hunting on this property for almost 30 years. You know, I started hunting when I was 12 because at the time that was the legal age limit. Now I'm 40. So, you know, I've been hunting this property for a very long time. In all the years I've hunted here, I've only had 3 opportunities to shoot nice deer. The first time I had a really nice buck come in, you know, I messed up. I had mud on my boots, and, you know, I turned to look around the tree, and all the mud scraped off my boots, fell to the ground, spooked the buck. He wouldn't come any closer. So the second opportunity that I had was, I think 3 years ago, opening day. I go out, and I had seen this buck 3 times in a row. He was all over my camera. And unfortunately, I don't have pictures of this buck because it was on an old computer and the computer crashed and all those pictures were on that computer. But it was probably the biggest buck I've ever seen on this property. And on opening day, right at sunrise, right at legal hunting hours, he walks out at 100 yards in front of me. I put him in the crosshairs, my primer fired, my black powder did not ignite. He didn't run off, and I got excited. I was like, oh, I'm gonna still get an opportunity. I took that primer out, put a new one in, put him back in my crosshairs, fire again, it did not fire. I pushed the black powder through, pushed a bullet through, reloaded the gun, and I took a shot at him at 150 yards, and once again my primer fired, but my gun did not ignite, and I'm pretty sure I just had some wet powder. It was in my garage. I should have had it stored in a drier area, and it was my fault. And I never saw that buck again. Never saw him the next year. I never saw him that year at all. So I assume he got shot by one of the neighbors, and congratulations to them. My 2017 hunt, I shot him. That video is right here if you guys want to check that out. But, you know, 3 times out of close to 30 years, you know, really isn't a high percentage. But back in July, I went out and checked my trail camera and I saw these videos. There's 4 to 6 really nice bucks in these videos. all these bucks are on there, and these are all very nice shooter bucks. So I start to get excited, and I realize that I have a lot of opportunity to get a nice buck this year because there are so many of them. And like I said, I usually see one really nice shooter buck and I get excited and I always get let down because he doesn't cross the fence. And I was like, well, there's 5 of them this year. I have to get a chance to shoot one of these deer. So I decided at the beginning of the year, before I even start to go out and hunt, I'm gonna hold out, and I'm gonna hold out for one of these really big bucks. The first, opening day comes along and it's 90 degrees. And then the next weekend, it's 90 degrees. And then the week after that, it's in the 80s, So I didn't go out hunting until the 3rd week of October because it was just too hot. But that first night I went out and it started to rain on my way out, and I didn't take my cameras. And it stinks because it never really rained. It rained for like the first half hour and it didn't rain after that. So I could have easily taken my cameras out, got a lot better video footage. It was exciting to get out there, exciting to film my hunt. I hadn't filmed a hunt since the year before. I had does come in front of me, I had bucks come in front of me. I had small bucks, and then I had one of the big bucks. And at the time, I was thinking it was a different deer. I was thinking it was a 7-point buck, and it was related to that buck that I missed the opportunity to shoot a couple years earlier, and I passed up the year before that. And going back and looking at the footage, I really think it was that buck that I was after all year. And I just, I'd never seen it in person, but I don't really know. They weren't in full rut, so the bucks were skinny. They had nice racks, but they were skinny. That was an exciting hunt though. I mean, those deer came in. That big buck was with 3 other small bucks. There's 2 other small bucks that came in earlier that day. I saw deer every night. I think there was only two, maybe 3 nights that I didn't see a buck. I started to see this one buck that I never actually named. I wanted to see what people would call it. We had some great names submitted and I just couldn't get around to picking one. And then honestly, right after I made that video, I stopped seeing them. I saw them, I think, one more time after that, and I never saw him again. It was getting closer to that rut, so I don't know if the bigger buck scared him away or if somebody had shot him on a neighboring property. As close as he was coming to my stand on a regular basis, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody shot that buck. I don't know how many different bucks I saw this year. I would say plus 10. There were big shooter bucks that I saw that I never actually saw again. This buck here, he comes out and he goes across the pasture, he checks the scrape, and then he walks back south and he gets about 50 yards from me and he goes into the woods, and I never saw that buck again. And like I said, we have a lot of neighbors to hunt, so he could have got shot, by one of the neighbors. And then here, this 10-point buck comes out. He walks out into the pasture, he's eating at the apple trees, and then he runs into the woods. About 5 minutes later, I see the smaller 8-point that I had passed up a couple days earlier. I see him running right at me, chasing a doe, and then he runs behind me and runs into the woods. I saw that deer all the way until the end of the season. I saw that deer all the way till New Year. This was my first Saturday morning hunt, and this was the first time that I saw this big buck out in the pasture, out in the open, and he was just eating. But this was the first time I actually got a really good, clear shot of this buck. When I saw that buck just out in the open and eating so freely and not really caring, he didn't have a care in the world, that was the moment that I was like, this is the buck that I'm gonna hold out for, and this is the buck I'm gonna shoot. A couple days go by, I go back out hunting. Now, as the rut picked up, the deer activity really picked up. I mean, these bucks were out in that pasture every single day. They were out there, chasing does and eating, and a lot of people say that the bucks don't eat. I watch these bucks eat every day. As the season went on, I just kept seeing these deer, and I got comments from people saying it must be torture. It is, but it isn't. Torture would be he'd be on my side of the property and be 10 yards farther than I'm willing to shoot. I feel lucky just in that aspect of things that I get to see deer. Like I said, a lot of people don't get to see deer, and even though they're on a neighboring property and I don't get to shoot these deer, I'm still happy that I get to see deer. I get to see deer all the time. I like making the videos and putting the deer on the videos. Right before November, I ended up going up to a friend's house, staying at his house for the weekend, doing some hunting there. Unfortunately, I didn't see a deer there. I don't think anybody that we were at camp with saw a deer that weekend, but they call it the October fall or something. I don't know. They call it something where you don't see any deer like that last week of October before the rut hits, and that was the weekend that we went up. So the weekend after we go to bow camp, my son comes over, we're target practicing, he shoots his hand. With anything that you're hunting with, any weapon that you're hunting with, they are weapons, you know, they are made to kill. You gotta be careful, but you know, with that crossbow, it was a hair trigger, he was loading the arrow wrong, and that was my fault. He hit his thumb pretty bad, didn't break anything luckily. I think he might have broke like a tendon or something like that, but it healed. His hand's perfectly normal now. That day when we were target shooting, you know, I saw two really nice bucks walk across the field right in front of my stands. I sent my brother the videos and like, this is where you're gonna be hunting tomorrow. He already knew where he was gonna be hunting, but I was like, this buck walked right in front of your stand, you know, you're gonna get a shot opportunity. The day before, I checked my camera and I see this buck come on camera. I had never seen this buck come on camera before. Really nice buck, real wide. You could tell he's definitely a younger buck, but he's still a really big buck. That was the first time I seen that buck all year, so I thought. After I went back and I was looking at that footage from the summer, that buck actually showed up 2 separate times on 2 separate cameras. I hadn't seen that buck at all while I was hunting. I'm sitting in my stand, my brother gets in his stand. My brother's texting me like, where are these deer at? I haven't seen any deer. And I'm seeing deer, but they're on a neighboring property, and I can see into the pasture and I can see some deer. And then he finally starts to see some deer, and he gets some does out in front of him, and they come in between us. And the wind really wasn't in his favor. I mean, the wind was blowing right at those does. I thought for sure that they were gonna get spooked and run off. And I see this buck, he comes into the field, and I can see it's a big buck. I couldn't tell which buck it was, I just knew it was a nice buck. And I text my brother and I'm like, the nice buck's coming right towards you. And he's walking right towards him. He just told me this, but he checks his phone, he's like, there's no buck coming, he's just messing with me, whatever. As soon as he puts his phone in his pocket, that buck walks across the property line onto our property. And you can't really tell in the video, but that buck is about 60 yards away from my brother. He's looking at that salt lick that I put there like 2 years ago. He starts chasing a doe, and he's chasing it over in my direction. So he gets about 55 yards away, and he turns back and he goes towards my brother. And the does are walking away from my brother. They're walking towards my grandparents' farm. So I didn't think that the buck was actually gonna walk down to him. And for some reason, he went back towards the fence row, and he gave my brother like a perfect 20-yard shot. Broadside. He ran about 150 yards, dying about 50 yards from my stand. So I was super excited because I finally got a deer kill on camera, and I was really happy that, you know, one of those nice bucks got harvested. My brother ended up getting that deer at age. It was an 8-point buck, 20-inch spread, and it was only 2.5 years old. So that would ended up being a really big deer, but nobody's gonna pass up that opportunity. After my brother shoots his deer, I'm still hunting hard, and I'm hunting all the time, and I'm really trying to get a deer before gun season because I'm a neighboring property. A lot of these people will hunt with a gun. I don't want the deer that I want to get shot by somebody else. I mean, I'm selfish like that. I go out for an all-day hunt the day before opening day of gun season. Now, I already get a late start because my wife had a doctor's appointment. I had to take the kids to school, so I didn't even get in the stand until like 8:30. Even so, you know, the rut was so active at that time that I get to the stand, I do spook some does up. Within 5 minutes, all the deer are back in the field. It's like they don't care. And I see 4 or 5 different bucks that day chasing does. One of the bigger bucks that I'm hoping will come across the property line, I see him out there and he's chasing does, and all the bucks were chasing does, obviously, it's the rut. There would be a doe run off into the woods, and then a buck would run off in the woods, and then they both walk out of the woods, you know, with that walk of shame, you know, like, you know what was happening. Then it would happen again, and this happened all day long. It was just all day, like one after the other, going back into the woods, and you know, they were working. Later in the day, I see the bigger buck come out to the north of me, and he's got one single doe with him. He stands out there for probably a good 35, 45 minutes, and then he walks into the weeds, and I never see him again. So opening day, I'm excited, but I don't have my gun. So I was like, I'm still gonna go out because there's gonna be other hunters out there, and maybe one of them will kick a deer to me, and I'll get lucky like I did the year before and get a 5-yard shot with my bow. So I go out, none of them cross the fence, but I see the 2 bucks that I'm really, like there's 2 main bucks, and then there's a couple other bucks that come in every now and then. And those 2 main bucks that are out in the field, and the big buck, you know, he jumps the fence, and you know, I'm getting worried because he's jumping the fence going onto the neighboring property that nobody's allowed to hunt. So I keep getting worried that somebody's gonna shoot him. And this one time he jumps the fence, he goes down off the fence row, and I hear a gunshot. I'm like, crap. At that moment that I hear the gunshot, I was like, I'm ready to go home. I was just like I was like, dang it, you know, I worked so hard all year and somebody else shoots him. And then about 5 minutes later, he ends up coming back, you know, coming out into the pasture. I go home, I come back that night, I have my gun with me this time. They're both out in the field again. And they're both chasing does around and it's snowing really hard. About 10 to 15 minutes before legal hunting hours is over, one of the two big bucks comes within 40 to 60 yards of my stand. And it was snowing so hard I couldn't really determine which one it was. I think it was the bigger buck of the two, but I'm not real sure. But based on the rack, you know, because I was looking at him through my scope, I had already had my cameras put away because it was snowing so hard you couldn't make anything out. That was as close as they came, and nothing ended up crossing the fence. And then I left for the UP. About a week before I went to the UP, I started feeling crappy. I really don't know how to explain it. My body started feeling really tense and like all my muscles were sore all the time. But I wasn't feeling sick. I didn't have a runny nose. I didn't feel congested. Just my body was hurting so bad. And by the time I got to the UP, it was so bad that I couldn't get out of bed. My body was just hurting like ridiculously bad. So that entire first day, I pretty much just spent inside trying to recover, trying to get my body to feel better. And then at the end of the day, I was like, you know, I'm just gonna go out and walk, I'm gonna sweat this out, you know. Then on our second night, Adam, he was a camp rookie, he ended up shooting a deer. It was his biggest buck that he had ever shot, but I think he's only been hunting for 2 years. So, you know, he got a deer, we tracked this deer. It really wasn't as far, like we probably walked a mile, but it was because we were zigzagging and stuff. It was only like 3/8 of a mile to half a mile from our camp, but deer zigzag and all that stuff. And we ended up finding the buck, took him back to camp. Then me and my brother did a hunt together in his box blind where it's really heated and it's nice and warm in there. And he's actually never seen a deer before in that blind. And I think it's been there 5 years now. And we're sitting there and finally 2 deer come out, but I wasn't able to get my camera up. We don't know if they smelt us or they heard us or something else spooked them off. But no matter what, the UP is just so different and it's so nice up there and it's so quiet. I keep saying it in like every video how quiet it is, but it's just so quiet. It's hard to explain. We had a good deer camp. You know, it was fun. Gary was there, Ryan was there. Steve ended up not being able to go. Steve is the foundation of the camp. For our camp, we actually have 2 camps. We have the first week's camp and then the second half of the week's camp, because over the years the family's just gotten too big and we just all can't fit in that cabin at one time. Any camp, if you see a deer camp, you've had a successful deer camp. I think it's been 13 years that we've been going to this camp. I've probably only seen 20 deer total, maybe. I don't know. It's not a lot though, but I don't care because it's so nice. It's so much fun. You got pine martens. You got an opportunity to see wolves. I've never seen a bear up there, but they're probably hibernating by the time we get there. People have seen moose at our camp, and we've got moose on camera up there. So the UP is just another experience. It's part of hunting. Whether you see a deer or you don't see a deer, it's always a good time. So after I come back from deer camp, I don't even know if there's any deer left at home. You know, I don't know if any of the bucks made it through that week that I was gone. And I go out hunting, no bucks. So I went out 3 different times, I didn't see a buck. And then finally on that 4th day, I saw a buck. It at least got my hopes up that, you know, some of the bucks survived. The next time I went out, I think it was actually the last day of gun season, and I really hadn't seen a deer. The wind was blowing in the wrong direction, and in my head I'm like, you know what, like I shouldn't have came out because the wind is blowing right into the woods where they bed, and I'm just a moron for being out here at all. I'm getting ready to leave, and I turn around and look, and I can see some deer up on the hill. I take a harder look, and I can see a buck. Well, that's a bigger buck than the ones I saw the other day, and then lo and behold, it's the buck that I've been after all year. And I keep waiting and waiting, and all the other deer that are with them have already crossed the fence, and they're over there eating the beans, and for some reason he just found a trail of beans that he liked on the other side, and he's stuck there until after shooting hours. And by the time he got in front of me, first time I've seen him cross the fence all year, and it was 10 minutes after shooting hours. It sucked. That was frustrating. People were like, how can you not be frustrated that hunts like this happen? I was frustrated after that night. That sucked. But at the same time, as frustrated as I was excited because I still saw him. I still saw that he was alive. Muzzleloader season was coming up, and after all the years I've been hunting out there, I've never heard a muzzleloader shot on a neighboring property. I didn't see him again with my gun. On the last day of hunting season on my private property, I saw the big buck, and he came out to the pasture and he was chasing the doe around the pasture. So he's still alive. Hopefully he doesn't get hit by a car. Hopefully he doesn't get CWD. You know, hopefully he makes it through till next season. If he does, he is gonna be a huge buck, but doesn't mean he's gonna cross the fence. I do have a plan to plant some food plots. I don't know if that's gonna help or not, but you know, if I can get the does to come across, then hopefully I can get the bucks to follow them. So I'm hoping that that'll work. I got a little bit of a bonus this year because in 3 counties towards Detroit, they allowed you to hunt until January 31st. Unfortunately, I really didn't find this out until 3 or 4 days before the end of the season. I didn't get to do any scouting. I just basically got on X Maps and, okay, I gotta find some state property and I'm gonna find out where I can hunt and so on. So I went out 4 or 5 times. I didn't see one deer. Couple things I'm going to be doing this year is, like I said, I want to try to do some food plots. I used to work with a guy that worked with a company that made these small food plot, and it's hard to explain when I say it like this, but basically you could plant like a really tiny food plot in a small area, like by your bow stand in the middle of the woods or so on. And it was a really cool concept. Come this spring, I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about and how you can do that. And they used to sell kits and stuff. I don't think they sell kits anymore. I don't know if the company still exists actually anymore. The kit was so simple. You can go anywhere to any big box store, buy all the stuff you need, and be able to plant like little food plots. With the new bait laws the way they are, I think this would be a great way for you guys to be able to attract deer to your stands or hunting areas, etc. A couple other goals too is I got my reminder set in my phone. I'm gonna be applying for some out-of-state tags as well as the elk tag from Michigan. And I want to do some traveling next fall and do some public land hunting out of state. I want to thank everybody for watching my vlog, you know, my hunting series. It was unfortunate I wasn't able to tag a deer this year for the vlog. For me to even hunt this much was like a big accomplishment for me. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank everybody that watched all the videos for this series. And I can't wait to do the next series. I'm gonna do some fishing videos this spring, summer, and fall, you know, early fall. So thanks for watching. Comment down below. Hit that like button, share, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. You can like or dislike this video. I really don't get offended. I prefer the likes though. I gotta go.